let's talk about some countermeasures to social engineering. So first of all, good password policies. We've already talked about some of this stuff, changing the password periodically, making sure it's a long passphrase, right? Not a guessable password like your ex-girlfriend's name or something like that. Avoid account blocking after failed. Not avoid, but have account blocking after failed attempts. Make sure you have, there it is, that increased length and complexity. That's a passphrase I was talking about before. And don't write it down. Keep that password secret. And there are physical security policies to keep in mind. And for instance, all employees should be identifiable. They should have ID cards, for instance. Very easy to print and manage ID cards for employees. And they should have uniforms. I remember I was working for an IT department. I don't remember where I was when I was working for it, but the whole IT department was issued shirts with logos and even with our names on it. That really helped with the department. I remember working for another organization where they wanted the IT department to wear a tie, and a button shirt. And here we have people underneath desks and bending over computer systems. And there was a lot of complaints there. But there needs to be some type of uniform, perhaps at least for certain departments. Visitor escort, somebody comes in, they're a visitor, escort them so they don't wander around grabbing information, restricting access. You can use signage, you can use locked doors, shredding documents that you aren't using, and making sure you have security personnel, whether it be a receptionist at the front desk, a security guard, or employees who are dedicated to the physical security of the location. And then we have a defense strategy. You need to have a social engineering campaign. We'll look at some tools that you can use to do that in just a few moments here. But you need to test your employees. Anything that you want your employees to be able to do in a pinch. What do I mean by in a pinch? Like there's an emergency or there is an action that needs to be taking place right now. Like for instance, I'm an employee. I need to make a decision right now as to whether to click on the link in that email or not. Anything you want your workforce, your work staff, your employees to do in a pinch, guess what you need to do? You need to drill. Do it over and over and over again so they get used to understanding how this looks, how this works, and therefore they're going to do fine. They're going to do fine when push comes to shove and they actually need to act. So what we do in terms of social engineering is have a social engineering campaign. We send all of our employees, or maybe even a department by department, social engineering tests. Send them email, send them text messages, send them vishing and phishing and smishing messages. We also send a visitor, see how far the visitor gets into the department. We also have people do phone calls. Have a campaign of social engineering, see how far you get, and then analyze the results of that and do a gap analysis. We find that 20% of employees responded all the way to the social engineering campaign. Oh man, that's not good. We need a remediation strategy. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into departments once a quarter, and we're going to hammer away at the areas where people failed. Like for instance, somebody walked into the building, they were able to get all the way to the back of the building and walk around free without an escort. We're going to drill that. We're going to role play it and see if we can get people to recognize that as an issue. We had 20% of employees click on a link promising them a free slushie if they click on a link. And we use software to do a social engineering campaign to get people to stop clicking on emails that offer free slushies or Starbucks coffee or a free trolley ride in the city center or whatever it is. All right, so we need to drill it if we want to make sure that the employees understand, the workers understand, and they're able to withstand an attack. So there are countermeasures also that we can take to that insider. These insider threats can be so horrible. Separation of duties and rotation of duties so that not one person is doing everything. Because one employee can have too much power, be ingrained and stuck in an area, and they have all the time in the world to do attacks, and when they get fired, it's like nobody even knows what the job is and they can't fix it. Least privilege. Give people only the amount of privilege that they need to do the work, controlling access, not only to physical locations in the building, but also to the assets of the organization online. Log and audit everything. Monitor your employees. Use video cameras. Use user behavior analytics. Get logs of logins and logoffs, account usage, resource usage, etc. And then periodically go back through and see where your greatest risk is, and then find that risk and put extra safeguards in those areas to be on the lookout for insider threats. Now, there are also some countermeasures that you can do for identity theft. Number one, if you have documents, and please also consider this at home. If you don't own a shredder at home, go down to Walmart, not Home Depot, but some business shop or whatever. Find yourself a shredder or order one online on Amazon or something like that. And if you have medical bills or documents that have your name and private information, you have credit card offers or loan offers or anything like that, pop those docs into your shredder. Don't just put them into the trash. Here's the problem with work and with home is that now we have recycling. And it used to be that if somebody wanted to get to the medical document that you threw away, they would have to dig through old diapers and used spaghetti and then find the document. No, not anymore. Now they just open your bin, and stacked neatly with no spaghetti or diapers is all your documents. Just reach in there, grab it, and walk away. And it's nice and clean. They're stacked. So make sure that you shred those documents at work, at home. Ensure your name isn't present on marketers' hit list. You can actually petition for that. Review your credit card statement. Again, you can use monitoring tools for that. Never give personal information over the phone. And so if someone calls you and somehow works you into a point where it's time for you to give personal information, stop. Ask yourself, is this legitimate? And then ask, is there another way? Can we communicate over email? And if they start getting upset, then you know that this is not a place where you should give out your information. Keep all emails secure by emptying your email box quickly. I have a problem with that one. And actually, I think a lot of people do. A lot of times people want to keep their email around so they can have a trail of communications and so on. But you know what? It keeps things more secure if you empty that email box. Now, if you have phishing emails, there are ways. It usually is from a banking company, social network, has usually a generic greeting. So for instance, normally, if I get an email from a real legitimate financial institution, it'll say, "Dear Kevin King," right? It'll actually have my first and last name. But if it's a phishing email from a fake financial institution, they'll say, "Dear valued customer," "Dear user," something like that. So here it says, "Dear customer." It's generic. If it ever is generic, assume it's phishing, right? So generic greeting. Number two, there's going to be, looks like it's someone from your email address book. Number three, it's going to have some urgency, maybe a little bit of a threat. Number four, there might be, like I was telling you, if you're an American English speaker, you'll notice that the grammar might be a little bit off. Number five, you might have spoofed websites. So hover over this link, or you can right-click on the link, and then you can copy the link address and then open up Notepad or something like that and paste it into Notepad and have a look at what the link actually is. It may not be Apple. It may not be Bank of America. But if it said "Dear customer," it's not Apple anyway, right? It's not really them. Offers that are too good to be true, official looking logos, may have an attachment, These are some of the things that you'll see in a phishing email. Don't click on the link. In general, if you get email from any financial institution at all, ever, don't click on a link. Even if you called your bank and your bank says, we're sending an email right now and it has a link in it, don't click on the link. Why? Because everybody who ever clicked on a link thought it was legitimate. So if you think it's real, still don't click on links from financial institutions. So if you get an email from your financial institution, it is actually from your real financial institution, and it says that your account, it has some trouble, don't click on any link in it. Go to your account on a separate web page, type in www.paypal.com, www.mycreditcardaccount.com, or whatever it is, and log in and find out if it's legitimate, right? Remember, whoever clicked on a link thought it was legitimate. So even if you know it's real, no click on link. Another thing you can do to help yourself out a little bit is get an anti-phishing toolbar. If you, let's say that you're watching this class and you're like, Kevin, I feel compelled. I really feel compelled to click on those links. If that is you, get yourself Netcraft or PhishTank. These are anti-phishing toolbars that will help you to make sure that you're not clicking on phishing, right? So there's a couple of tools that you can use to help you. There's most of the class, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen those all the time. But there are some of you perhaps participating in this class and that you're a clicker, you know it. Well, use a tool to help you not be one who falls prey to social engineering. There are other tools that you can use. Let's say that you are a manager, you are a system engineer, you are a network person. Set the social engineering toolkit. It's made out of Python, programmed in Python. And what it is pen tests your social engineering. It goes through many different possibilities. And you can set up a social engineering fake campaign and use it to test your employees. The Speedfish framework, GoFish, Kingfisher, all of these are tools. And what these tools do is they set up a campaign. Like for instance, using OFish, I can, by the way, I've used this tool before and done this before. I can set up an entice to click. I set up entice to click with OFish, and I send it out to an entire department or the entire organization. It has some type of message that I can help craft. It has built-in messages that you can just use boilerplate or make your own or whatever. And it tries to get, it's got logos and many different ways to make it look real, and to try to get them to click on something. And if they click on it, well then what it does is it has, let's see if you see it right over here, training. So it takes them to remediation. It says, uh-oh, you've been O-fished. You are required by your organization to go through this training, and there'll be training that shows you how to recognize some of the training that we're doing here, how to recognize what's going on. So phishing, credential harvesting, smishing, email campaigns. I also, using OFish, I did a voice campaign, with some phishing that tried to get employees to call a phone number, right? If they call a phone number, well then, guess what? It leads them to training. It shows up on their email, hey, you've been phished, you're required to take this training. So you can audit the organization's security, make sure people aren't able to be fooled by social engineers. So in this module, we've talked about social engineering, people hacking human OS 1.0, and the many ways they do it, the phases of it, the different tools and vectors of social engineering and the threats that we face in our organizations and at home, Yeah, I mean, this happens to us in our home offices and on our tablets and on our phones. We face all this stuff. And so we also talked about countermeasures to help to defend against social engineering. And the main countermeasure is patching. Human OS 1.0. And how you do that? You patch it to education, making sure people understand the different types of phishing. And we even talked about not just phishing, but social engineering. We even talked about using tools to test and educate employees in social engineering. And that takes us to the end of the content for this module on social engineering. In the next module, we're going to look at network level attacks and countermeasures. So why don't you join me there?